Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I hope this is working. This is the first time I've done a YouTube live. So I know I'm live. I don't know I'm live in the link I created. So I hope that you all find this. If for some reason it didn't work right, this video will be posted on my YouTube and I will share it. So you will be able to watch it. But hopefully I'm in the right spot right now. So I'm home with my little ones. We're in their playroom right now, and we're just gonna talk about the Groclock and see what happens. Want to say hi?
Hi.
So yeah, welcome to my Small Steps community. If you don't know me, my name's Dr. Seeley, and I help parents with their little ones sleep. And all of my plans, all of my support are always aimed at making very small, gradual changes. So today what I'm going to be talking about is tips for introducing the Groclock and what steps that you can take and steps that I often take with my clients when introducing the Groclock. I have a little sheet here that I'm going to go by just because I know they will distract me. So I want to make sure I talk about everything. Yes, correct. Okay, I want you to waterproof. Okay, I want you to play while I do this. It won't take too long. Okay, so yeah, the Groclock is something that I use a lot with my clients. Really, I never have people buy stuff. Really rarely ever. But the Groclock is one thing that I do have people buy. And because it works, I find time and time again, yeah, Lila, why don't you go play outside? Go play with Kirk. I do find that it works pretty consistently with toddlers I work with, and they love it. They end up really loving it and being proud of themselves. So it is something that I do often have my clients purchase, and really the only thing that I ever find is consistently helpful for all children. Usually I'd say 2 years plus. Pretty consistent. Once they hit 2 years, they can catch on to the Groclock. What's going on? Oh, she's stuck? Okay. My son, so Kirk was 20 months old. Lila is 18 months old, and I'm using it with her right now for the last 2 weeks. So you could go younger than 2 years. And I'll give some suggestions for if they are younger, some ways that it can work. Hi. So yeah, I'd say 2 years plus, they are perfectly capable and it's very helpful for that age. So in this video, I'm going to talk first about what is the Groclock, how does it work, and then I will give some tips and some steps that I normally take with it so that you can implement it in a way that works, and also to make it a positive thing. So things that you can do to make it so they do love it rather than something that they don't love. So we want to make it a positive thing for them so that it works. If you're new to my channel, I will be coming on live quite a bit, either to answer questions or to just do a live Q&A. So if you have questions, post them below. If you want a topic covered, I'd love to hear it, and I will be back on to talk about more topics. So feel free to share. You can follow. I think the follow makes you notified if I am live. So you can follow along on my channel, and all of my content is moving over towards YouTube. So this is where you can find me. Okay, what is the Groclock? Well, very simply, it's just a little clock. And I'll post a link to one below so you can see what it looks like. But it's just a little clock. And what it does is during the day, the sun is on. You put it up in your child's room. When you go to bed, you press a little button, the sun goes away, and then that indicates that it is nighttime, and that's when they will be sleeping. In the morning, you have it preset to a time. At that time, the sun comes up, and then your child learns that that's when they wake up and the sun comes up, and they are allowed to get out of bed when the sun comes up. So essentially, it really works as a way to keep time for them and to give them external cues of when they will be sleeping and when they will be awake. And when you think about it, when we sleep at night, so the same for toddlers as adults, we wake up and stir throughout the night. A lot of our more frequent wake-ups are between 4 and 6 a.m. when sleep is lightest. And what we do is we think, oh, is it time to get up? I don't know. Check our watch. Oh, no, it's 4 o'clock, time to go back to sleep. And then we know it's time to go back to sleep. So for toddlers, when they wake up in the night, especially during that 4 to 6 a.m. lighter stages of sleep, they have no really idea. Like, is it time to get up? Is it not time to get up? Is it soon? And it would be really confusing if you think about removing a clock from your room to understand your sleep if you have no idea what time it is. So you can think of how confusing that would be for a toddler. So what the Groclock does is it gives them those external cues to tell them, yes, it is time to get up, or no, it's not time to get up. If the sun's not up, then we know it's not time to get up. So it's really helpful at giving external cues so that they know if they can get up or not. And toddlers really end up loving having those cues and understanding what's going on around them. And they really, really do end up loving it. So it's great at just teaching them those rules and giving them those cues so that they know if they should be getting up or not. Normally, okay, go outside and play, Kirk.
I'm gonna be drawing the house.
Okay, go in your house. Yeah. So yeah, it's really great for that. It's also, I use it quite a lot. So for toddlers that wake up too early, it's really helpful because, again, it gives them that cue. It's time to go back to sleep. And it's also really good. So what I find with a lot of my clients who are early morning wakers, waking up too early and the parents knowing they need more sleep, what happens is they wake up, you bring them out, you figure they're not going back down. So you turn on the lights, get your day going. And then with toddlers, even with adults, but especially toddlers, their little clocks really can get set on waking up early once they start used to getting up and having the lights on and starting their day. So they really can just get set on getting up early. And then what happens is it's hard to have them sleep in because their clock is set to getting up early. So a lot of parents will say, no matter what I do, no matter when they go to bed, they're always up at, like, say, 5:30 a.m. So what the clock can do is once they learn these rules and these boundaries, you can use it to help shift them so that they stay in bed longer. Their body doesn't get used to getting up, turning the lights on. And then over time, maybe even 5 days, 7 days, that clock can shift and they start sleeping through it. So it can be good to regulate those cues and to help get their clocks set at a time that they need to be sleeping. So that's another reason more. So first, learning the boundaries of sleep and then using it to shift around their sleep once they know it. It can be great for time changes, if you're traveling, anything like that, to help make those adjustments. So those are the two things I really use for, is early morning wakers or anyone we just know they need more sleep. Also, if toddlers are getting up and out of bed a lot in the night, it can be really useful because, again, it gives them that sense of, no, it's time to go back to bed. So I use it a lot just for toddlers in general who are waking up. So it is something I use pretty consistently with all 2-year-olds plus. So when teaching them, so the big thing is usually our first step is teaching them the rules that when the sun's not up, you stay in bed until the sun comes up. So teaching them those rules is really number one. And the biggest thing I find in making sure that it works is being consistent. So you need to, whatever rules you put in place, you have to be 100% consistent with making sure you have them wait until the sun comes up to get out of bed. If they learn that they don't have to do it every day, or that it's not really a real thing, it's not going to work, and they're going to learn really quickly that they don't have to wait. So whatever plan we put in place, we always make sure that it's going to be manageable for the child and for the parents to implement, because if you don't stick to it, it's not going to work. And really the key to success isn't the child, it's the parent being consistent. So when we start using it, it's always a discussion of what is manageable and what can we put in place so that you can follow it and that you feel comfortable following it with your little one. So a lot of times at the beginning, what we do is put the time somewhat close to when they just naturally get up so that they can learn those rules, and it's not a real negative thing. And it's easier to follow for the parent. So for example, if your child's always waking up, say around 5:30, 5:45, at first we'll sometimes say, let's set the clock to 5:45 because that's when they're usually getting up. It'll be easy to teach them to wait for the sun. And usually that's a manageable time, setting it around the time they wake up. So we always decide what time is reasonable and then start with one that is. Once you have that in place and have done that, it's easier to shift it and add time. But at the beginning, it really is, like I said, about teaching them the rule and making sure you stick to it. So having one that's more manageable is the best way to do that. After that, so we say, okay, so we're going to set the clock, say for 5:45. And then it's the discussion, if they wake up, say at 5:30, what will you do to make sure that they wait until 5:45 for the sun to come up? So we want to have a plan in place to know what you will do during that time. And really the big rule is just making sure that they wait. So even if that means going in, sitting with them or laying with them and saying, we're going to sleep, we'll wait together, the sun's not up, waiting with them and then physically showing them, oh, the sun's up, let's get up and get out of bed. That's fine. So for some families, we do that. The parent might call in and say, oh, not until the sun comes up. So it kind of depends on the child and what's happening with their sleep. But some feel comfortable calling in. For Lila, I felt comfortable just kind of letting her be in the room. She would cry and then stop and cry and stop. And I felt fine with that. And some parents do as well. So the plan is really kind of unique to the child and the parent, but it could mean being in the room and just waiting and showing them physically the sun. Sometimes we do that for a couple days, and then at that point, the parent will call in and say, not till the sun. That works, I think, better for older toddlers, maybe like 3-year-old. The younger, like Lila, I wouldn't be able to just call in and it wouldn't work for her. So it kind of depends on the age and the baby. But the biggest thing is having a plan that you make sure that they wait. And it doesn't really matter what that is, but you want them to wait and learn. They cannot get out until the sun comes up. And then stick with that. Is Lila out there? Where is she? Is she in the house?
She's with the hula hoops.
She's with the hula hoops. Oh, okay, I see her. Yeah. Okay. So number one, I'd say set a time that you can stick to and then make sure you have them wait until it comes on. Once that's in place, most of the time, a lot of the times they start just sleeping in. And a lot of parents will notice they wake up less throughout the night. If they do wake up, you would kind of do what you'd normally do and maybe just remind them not until the sun comes up and just have them learn the rules. So you don't really have to change too much other than explaining the rule of it and sticking to it. And then from there, what I usually do is start shifting it. So say they start sleeping until 5:45. She okay?
No.
Set it for 6 o'clock and gradually, I always move it in gradual increments to the time that we want. Okay, Kirk, why don't you go see what she's doing? So that's usually the steps that we start with. A couple other things that we always make consistent is we always decide what kind of language we're going to use when we say goodnight to the sun and when the sun comes up. And it might depend on the age of the toddler, but usually the more simple the language, the better. For Lila, I always say to her before bed time. So now with the Groclock, I say, night, night, sun, it's sleepy time. So often we just use a version of what the child is already used to.
I gotta tell you something.
Well, I'm talking.
It's something about, while his foot was tucked, and then I grabbed it out, but then the shoe came off of her.
Oh, her shoe's off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
one of them.
Okay, 1 second. Want your shoe back on? Okay. Okay. We had a lost shoe. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the language. So at night, and one thing we also always make sure of is when we say goodnight to the sun, that is their sign that it's bedtime. So sometimes with toddlers, we have plans of like making sure that those boundaries are set, that once you say goodnight, it means goodnight. So usually it's the last thing you do right before bed. You say goodnight and then it's nighttime. So you want them to learn that. In the morning, I usually have some sort of consistent language. For Lila, I say, oh, the sun's up, time to get up. So something very simple, but as long as it's consistent, then that's the key. So simple and consistent. One thing I will say, and I always do this with the Groclock, is when you say goodnight to the sun, the way it's preset is when the sun goes away, there's this bright blue light with stars that come up. And I think the reason for it is that you say, oh, the stars are up, you're sleeping. You can turn that option off in the Groclock. I find it's a little disruptive because it's really bright blue. And a lot of toddlers I've worked with, it's kind of just almost got them excited in the night when they see this blue light. So I usually tell clients to turn the blue light off and then just say the sun's going away, the sun comes back. So almost ignoring that option, and everything's just revolving around the sun. It makes the language and the understanding simpler, especially for younger toddlers, because you just say bye-bye sun and then good morning sun, and then you don't have to worry about that blue light disrupting them in any way. So I would suggest setting that off so that it's not on. So we decide on the language and stick to it. Sometimes we take a couple days just to introduce language if the toddler doesn't have really a phrase around sleep or anything. So we might introduce it. If it's an older toddler, sometimes we even take time to explain the clock a little. And there's a video I have on YouTube, I'll post in the link, of me describing it to Kirk. And you can tell in the video he's understanding. And I show him, I say the sun's going away, the sun's coming up, and that's when you get up. And I show him it before bed. So if your toddler's old enough to understand it, you could try that. And I'll post a link to that video. Lila, I tried it with, she's 18 months. She was not getting it at all, which is fine. And she ended up learning more through just the experience of it rather than telling her it. She just had to experience and learn by me saying, oh, look, the sun's up, we'll come out of bed. So you can do it either way, but if some older toddlers, we describe it to them, and there is a little book that comes with it that you can use if they're old enough to understand it. You can read it to them and explain. Some children, we take a day or two just to explain the sun and the moon. And with Kirk, I remember pointing it out in books. And I'd say, oh, look, the sun's up. It's daytime there. Even if the book wasn't about it, I would just talk about the sun and say, oh, the sun's going away. I think one was the big red barn, and they had the sun went away at the end of the day. So I used that to explain it. So you can do that sometimes a couple days and then introduce it if you want them to really get the concept of it. And usually I take a few days of those changes before implementing it and really starting with it. So yeah, basically I would say teach them the language, pick a consistent language, make it a manageable time so that they learn the rules first, and then shift the rules or shift the times to be later for your little one. And then what happens is, even if, say, you're sitting with them in the room and waiting for the sun, their internal clock is not getting up, turning the lights on. So they're getting used to being in the dark. That in itself is really helpful because that's when they can start sleeping longer too. So it's useful in both ways in terms of teaching them the rules, which is really helpful, and then also getting their clock shifted because you're making them wait in the dark, and that's helping to fight against that little clock that's wanting to get up early. So it helps kind of those two things combined. So that's kind of all my tips. That's what I normally would do with clients. Usually at the same time, we're working on other things too. So if you find you're struggling with sleep in general, whether it's bedtime or just night wake ups a lot or napping, then that's always something I can talk more in videos about, because usually there's more than one goal than just the Groclock, at least with the clients I work with. So that's always something. Yeah, if you have questions about sleep, something else you want a video on, post it below, and I'll be back on. If you're watching this live, you know what's happening in the world right now. We're all home and we're all in this together. So I want to be on here talking about sleep. As long as you're okay being patient with my little ones running around, I'm happy to talk about it and answer more questions and hopefully come out of this just better rested and happier. And if this can help in any way, bring some sleep into your life, then I'm more than happy to come back on. So post some questions. Let me know what you want to talk about. Yeah.
Lila fell on the ground
Did she
by
fall?
herself.
Okay.
I didn't do it to her.
Okay, I'm done. So, yeah, so post below, and thanks for sticking with me. And hopefully talk to you all soon, and happy sleeping. Bye-bye. Lila, what happened? What happened, Lila?